The Sandman is hiding. He won't work his magic. What is the answer to the bill collector of arrest, who has come calling on your past to account? You need an insomnia scan our shelves for just the right comatonic. Nighty night, my sleep-deprived friend, drift off to dreamland, visit us again soon.
Hi, I am Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel. I want to tell you about my t-shirts. You can get your own at deaditesanddeck.com today. And if you don't want to take my word for it, here's a satisfied customer.
Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel, the cutest rockin' squirrel in the universe.
Hi, my name is Henley, and this is Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel. If you want a rockin' head like this, go to deadicesondeck.com.
Hi, I am Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel. Don't forget to watch Evil Dead Chick on Deadites on Deck on YouTube. Oh, and subscribe, man.
Howdy, gang. And forgot to change one thing here. Sorry about that. All right. Hey, the poet. The poet says groovy, hail to the king. And that is exactly correct, because here in a little bit, we're going to be having an admiration of Bruce Campbell, not a celebration. Thank God, not a memorial or tribute or anything like that. But just an admiration of who Bruce Campbell is, his acting ability, etc., etc. So we're going to get to all of that here in just a little bit. And I thought it only appropriate, since I'm the Evil Dead chick, that I have the new overlay, the new Evil Dead chick overlay for this particular stream. So I know I don't look exactly like that. Wish I did. But that's a cartoon version of, how I would like myself to be called, more attractive and assertive and all that. So before anybody gets any ideas about, whoops, you don't look like that. Well, I know I don't, but it's the way I wish I looked. Anyway, I just want to remind you guys and gals before we get into this, because I was running a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes late. And again, I apologize for that. But I just want to remind everybody that there are several different ways that you can support me in the channel, and it won't cost you a dime. One of the ways is by subscribing. Folks, there's really not a drawback to subscribing to not only my channel, but anybody else's channel out there that you're enjoying the content they're putting out. And especially with mine, I'm here to tell you, and the majority of people out there, I'm not going to bother you. After you subscribe, it's up to you how many streams and videos you watch or how few you watch. I'm not going to interrogate every person that subscribes to my channel and track them down and ask why they didn't, watch something. Okay. That is totally your call. Okay. But just the act of subscribing to someone that you enjoy the content that they're putting out, that supports them. Okay. Whether you watch one video or stream a month or 5 or 10 or more, right? So once you subscribe, you can hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the new content that I'm putting out. And then you can hit the like button on stuff that you especially enjoy. And heck, if you like it all, hit that like button all across the board. And here's one more way that you can support me in the channel, and it won't cost you a dime, won't cost anybody else that you tell about the channel a dime. And that's by sharing my channel by word of mouth at Deadites on Deck with friends and family members that you think might also enjoy the content that I'm putting out. Okay. Or you can share a video that you particularly enjoyed and tag me in that video. Okay. So I'm not going to go on and on about things. We're going to get to respect the chin and admiration of Bruce Campbell. This is something that's, like I said in the description for the video, this has been long overdue. Hey, I'm the Evil Dead chick. I should have done this a long time ago. But not only for the Evil Dead stuff, but Bruce Campbell has a whole back catalog of films that, and television shows too, that I could talk about and will talk about. But let me take you back, folks. I want to talk about how I first got into Bruce Campbell, how I first discovered the Evil Dead films. And I'm solely going to talk about the original trilogy of films, okay? So we'll take you back to when I was a youngin', to when I was just getting my, I had been a horror fan for a long time, probably from an age probably some people would consider too young to be a horror fan. But I was probably around 12 or so when I discovered Evil Dead 2. Yes, you heard that correctly. I watched Evil Dead 2 before I watched The Evil Dead, because The Evil Dead 2 is what I saw on the shelves at my favorite video rental store. And this is during the times when I spent a lot of time with my Aunt Sandy, my mom's sister, watching, as many horror movies as we could get our hands on, right? And I will never, ever forget this, because we went to the video store. My eye was automatically drawn to the Evil Dead VHS on the shelf, folks. And it had the skull cover art and the Dead by Dawn tagline on it. And that just completely, drew me in. So I knew nothing about this series. Of There were only 2 films at that point in time. It wasn't yet a trilogy. So I knew virtually nothing about this except what I read on the back of the VHS. Okay. So we took it to her house. We made a pot of chili. I even can still remember what we were eating. And I remember sitting down to watch this. And it was one of the most amazingly fun times I have ever had watching a movie. And part of this is due to the incredible direction by Sam Raimi, but the other part of it is due to Bruce Campbell. And that was my first introduction to not only Bruce Campbell, but the character of Ash Williams, who I have continued to follow through any Evil Dead entities that came after. Okay? Even the television show that was sadly only on for 3 seasons before it got axed. I think that, I just want to take a moment to say that show had a lot of potential. There were a lot of fans that enjoyed it. And it was the closest anybody was going to get to an Evil Dead 4, right? And I was sad to see it go. But again, I will never forget me and my aunt sitting down with our each having our respective bowls of chili and sitting there and watching one of the most, like I said, amazingly fun movies I have ever had seen before or since. Okay. And I laughed. I had fun with this movie because, I know some of this was out of necessity because after the first Evil Dead movie was made, the studio kind of came down a little hard on Sam Raimi and said, you can't have all this blood. You can't have all this red blood flying all over the walls and stuff like that. So he said, okay. And he had all kinds of different colored blood in this. We had greenish blood. We had black blood. We had a little bit of red blood here and there. So, and Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, Rob Tappert, the producer, all of those guys, were huge fans of the Three Stooges. And so there's a lot of splat stick, as they call it, in this. And Sam Raimi has always said that Bruce Campbell was the only person that could literally flip himself over. And I've never seen anybody else be able to do that. He literally would grab himself by the hair and flip himself over. Now, who else do you know in film that can do that and would do that, would put themselves through that? Bruce Campbell did it for horror art, you know? And he and Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert and Sam's brother Ted, Scott Spiegel, all these guys, Josh Becker, these guys that they hung around with from the time that they were kids, had been making short films of all kinds, not just horror films, you know. And so it's just amazing to see the progression that happened. Okay. So I also remember, even though it was slapstick, even though some of it was funny, and watching, you know, Bruce Campbell as Ash, his hand getting possessed, him having to saw his own hand off with the chainsaw, and then it running around and flipping him off, and all this stuff. And that's after he brings his girlfriend to a cabin, and she gets attacked by the Deadites and attacks him. And he has to cut her head off, and as they say in the Evil Dead films, total bodily dismemberment is the only way you can get rid of these Deadites or people that have been possessed by the Deadites, right? So, amazingly fun film. Wasn't scared by it, of course. Now, fast forward a little bit to the time when I actually got to see the original Evil Dead for the first time. Now, that was a dark movie. That was a horror movie through and through. Okay? And I still loved it. I was like, I love the character of Ash Williams. I love Sam Raimi. I love his directing style. His directing style was like nobody else I had ever seen. The shots that he would do were just, as people say, top tier for me. And if you want to watch a hardcore horror film, and by hardcore, I don't mean anything adult-wise, but I just mean if you want to see an absolute 100% horror film, really without humor in it, then The Evil Dead is it. But, you got to watch all of them. So let's fast forward a little bit later, and I was watching TV, and this was in the 90s, early 90s, folks, and I saw a commercial for Army of Darkness. I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, holy cow. You know, it's Ash is back, and he's in medieval times, and he's still fighting the freaking Deadites. I'm in. So Universal Studios put Army of Darkness out, the third in the Evil Dead trilogy. And this one was full on. Yeah, it had Deadites, and it had Ash fighting the Deadites and all that, but it had a whole heck of a lot of humor. More humor than the second Evil Dead film. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And by this time, the character of Ash had become a wisecracking, kind of an asshole, but he was just fantastic. The character was still, even though he had progressed from being a normal schmo to a medieval asshole, it was still fun. It was still fun, and I still loved the Ash character. And I will forever love that character. That's what introduced me to Mr. Bruce Campbell. And if you are watching this, or you watch this on the replay and you're like, I don't understand what all this stuff is about Bruce Campbell or the Evil Dead, or why Dana decided she wanted to be the Evil Dead chick. That's her persona that she wanted. Go and watch these films, please. That is part of me doing this. I want to encourage people to, one, if they've never seen any of the Evil Dead movies, to watch them. And two, to see the genius that is Bruce Campbell. He has to get 100% credit for creating the Ash Williams persona that has persisted through 3 films. And even when Bruce Campbell got older, people still wanted Ash. Hence, the television show that came out, right? So this character is not only special and near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, it has staying power. It has staying power. You can take away our television shows or whatever. You can cancel them and whatever. But, and Sam Raimi can choose not to do any more Evil Dead films. Bruce Campbell could choose not to play Ash Williams anymore. But the character still endures. And Bruce Campbell still endures, folks. And I have watched everything I can possibly get my hands on since the original Evil Dead trilogy that has Bruce Campbell in it. Even if it was, even if the film was a little bit of a stinker, even if the television show was not 100% great television, Bruce Campbell made it great just by having his presence in something. So, I watched Jack of All Trades. I love Jack of All Trades. Some people said that was a lousy television show and silly and all that stuff, but I was like, I love this show. Burn Notice, which is later, which I was telling Candace last night, I said, I don't really understand why I quit watching Burn Notice. I would love to go back and rewatch those because I love Bruce Campbell's character in Burn Notice. So I don't know if something just time got away from me and, I was unable to watch a few shows. And then I was like, I just it wasn't because I didn't like the show. It was just sometimes other things take precedence. The older you get, the more responsibilities you have. Sometimes you don't get to watch things as closely and as thoroughly as you would like to, right? So let's talk about meeting Bruce Campbell for the first time, because this is an admiration of all things Bruce Campbell. So I had wanted to meet Bruce Campbell for years. And so when Steve and I, early in our dating days, this prior to us getting married, Bruce Campbell came to, I believe, the Fright Night Film Festival here in Louisville, Kentucky. And I really, really, really wanted to meet Bruce Campbell. And God bless my husband. He made that a reality for me, folks. He made that a reality for me. I could have got my picture, you know, this was in the early days of the photo ops and stuff like that. And I could have gotten my picture with him. But I wanted to meet the man. And I believe somebody may have taken a quick picture. I mean, there wasn't people like dogpiling on you if you took a picture of Bruce Campbell at his table signing something for somebody. So Steve had gotten me a drawing, very nice drawing of Bruce Campbell. And I believe that's what I had signed. I'm pretty sure that's what I had signed. And so we were unsure if I was going to get a chance to meet him because you had to get a ticket to meet him. And I love the way Steve does things, and he's fooled me more than once. So I was staying the weekend with Steve because we were planning on going to the Fright Night Film Festival that year together. And Steve told me, he said, Dana, he said, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to go down to where the convention's going to be. And I'm going to try my best to get you a ticket to meet Bruce Campbell. Okay. And I said, okay, hon, you know. So he was gone for a little bit and he came back and he came in and he looked sad. He said, Dana, I tried, but I just, you know, couldn't get one. They were out of them. They had already, you know, sold all the tickets. And I was like, okay. I said, I understand. I was understandably disappointed. I said, but you tried your best and that's all that matters, right? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm really sorry, but he said, could you come out to my Jeep with me? This is the sweetest thing ever. He said, could you come out to the Jeep with me? I need you to help me with something. I was like, okay. I still had no idea. And we walked outside and he said, what's that in my windshield there? What's that? I said, oh no. He said, well, why don't you go up there and see? And what that was my ticket to get to meet Bruce Campbell. And Steve just broke into an incredible smile. And he had just propped it up in the windshield. And I probably gave him the biggest hug I've ever gave him before. One of the biggest ones. So Steve had met Bruce Campbell years and years ago when he was doing I think it was If Chins Could Kill book tour. And Steve had met him at one of the bookstores in town. And so he said, you know, I don't need to meet him again. Okay. So I stood in line with my great friends, Candace and Chris, who were also going to meet him. And we just talked while we were waiting. And then finally it was my turn to meet Mr. Bruce Campbell. And, you know, I thought I would be really nervous, but thankfully I wasn't. So I was able to enjoy this experience. And, you know, a lot of people talk about Bruce Campbell being kind of sarcastic and stuff, but that's just part of his shtick, folks. But he wasn't sarcastic to me. He was so sweet and nice. And before he signed what I had for him to sign, he did ask me where I got that, and I explained where Steve had gotten it for me, and he liked it. And I remember him looking at me, and he said, now this was probably not true, but he made me feel comfortable. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, um, I used to date a girl named Dana. And he said, she broke my heart. Now, some people might think, well, that's, kind of sarcastic. And I think I said something like, oh, I'm sorry. And he also asked me, he says, so what's it like to be in love with a woman named Dana? And I said, I don't know. I said, you'd have to ask my boyfriend about that. And he kind of laughed and he signed it. And, he gave me a little extra time. He could have just looked down the whole time. He could have signed that, handed it back to me, and that been the end. But he actually took couple extra minutes or so. And that's all I needed, folks. That's all I needed. He could have, decided that he had a long ass line there in front of him and he didn't have time to take an extra couple of minutes with me. But he did it anyway. And I didn't even notice how long he was talking to other people. And Candace told me that she said, he really talked to you, Dana. And I just broke into a smile. I was on cloud nine. And, I love meeting everybody that I have ever met at these horror conventions. But there are some people that I put up a little higher than others, or that the experience was a little more than your average experience. And I had Bruce Campbell up there because it's something that I will never, ever forget in my life. This was like the song says, my horror hero. Bruce Campbell will always be my horror hero, right? And so fast forward a few more years, and I didn't get to meet him again, but I had that memory of meeting him the first time around. But if anybody remembers when Bruce Campbell was doing the Last Man Standing shows, he came to Louisville, and I was like, Steve, I was working for the library at this time, and I heard about it because I think the Louisville Free Public was kind of sponsoring these or sponsoring his visit to Louisville. And I heard about it from a girl I worked with. And I was like, oh, there's no way that I'm not going to go to this. And you also got, I think with your ticket, when you purchased your ticket, you also got Bruce Campbell's new book at that time. It was, I think, the last one he did. And so I was going to have him sign it. But these already came signed. But if you brought something, and I didn't know about this, I wish I'd known about it in time. If you brought something else, you could have went up and met him, because my friend from work that had told me about this, she said, I've already met him and stuff. She said, if you want to take this ticket for free and go get something signed, you can, because I already kind of met him behind the scenes because her husband was helping set up this stuff. So I didn't end up doing that because I didn't have anything else to get signed, but that was a nice gesture. And I hope that she found somebody that could have taken that for free that maybe didn't have something signed. And, again, I had the memory of meeting him a few years before that. So it was all good. But it was so fun. The Last Man Standing game show type of thing. And Bruce Campbell up there in his Hawaiian shirt and stuff, and bringing fans on stage and all that. It was just absolute gold for me. And so, you know, gang, I didn't mean for this to be very long. I could gush and gush and gush about Bruce Campbell, about meeting him, about all the stuff that he's been in, folks. And I think he's got a new movie that's going to be coming out. And is it called Emma and Ernie, or Ernie and Emma? But it's supposed to be really funny and really good. So I'm looking forward to that. And, you know, I meant to open this with the explaining why I didn't do HorrorMania tonight like I normally do on Tuesdays. So I'm sure most of you, and I don't want people to feel like I'm ending this stream on a downbeat, because I'm not. Because Bruce Campbell is optimistic about what's going on with him right now, and I'm going to get to that in a second. So I think all the fans should be optimistic. All right. So I found out late yesterday afternoon or early evening that Bruce Campbell had been diagnosed with cancer. And as he put it, it's a treatable but not curable. And so he also said that he's one tough son of a bitch, and for people not to worry about him, and he has a great support system. And he ended this explanation with thanking the fans for being the greatest fans ever. I mean, this is a man who's just been handed this will be scary for anybody, diagnosis. And he still takes the time to thank his fans. Folks, this guy he is a king among men. And if you don't like Bruce Campbell and you see this and you don't understand why I'm going on and on about him, give this guy a second try, folks. Please. You know, watch some of his stuff. Start out with the Evil Dead stuff. Do like I did and watch Evil Dead 2 first. So you can see, you know, not only Bruce Campbell's horror range, but his comedic range. All right. So, that in a nutshell is why I didn't do HorrorMania tonight. I had intended to, but I thought that this needed to be done. Like I said, it was long overdue. This admiration of the one and only Bruce Campbell. Bruce, if you see this, I don't know if you will, but if you see this, hey, you got a lot of people rooting for you. And I know you're going to beat this. Sending love and prayers your way. And we as the fans are looking forward to many, many years of watching you on the screen. And so I guess that's all I have to say for this particular stream, except respect the chin, folks. Bruce Campbell, he's the man. And I want to thank the poet for being in the chat, keeping me company in the chat tonight. For those of you that were watching along, but maybe didn't feel comfortable getting in the chat, or you were watching the stream on a device such as a smart television where you weren't able to chat at the same time, I appreciate you watching as well. And for those of you that didn't get to join or didn't get to stay in here for the duration, I thank you guys and gals as well for watching this on the replay. And as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Hail the King, baby. And I'm out of here for now. And I'll see everybody next time.